Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of what I'm kind of looking for. Um, I'm using a grade 4 social studies example, but you can adapt it to whatever your content area is, whether you're teaching elementary, secondary, or post secondary. If you're teaching post secondary, have it cover maybe 2 weeks if it's a week long or once a week class, or it's a twice a week class. So basically, about, I don't know, 4 hours of instruction. And so the example I'm using here is just something about Spain building an empire. We have 3 different lessons, and I'm going to pretend I'm teaching these over the course of a week. Uh, we have this first one with Columbus's voyages. We have the second one about what happened when the Spanish found out there was lots of gold and how that all played out. And then we also have a bunch of stuff about what life in the new colonies were like, a lot about slavery, um, religious disagreements, and so on. And so when I look at this and I'm trying to figure out, well, what is the point of all this stuff? I should go to the standards and try to figure that out. Um, just as an example, I came up with this. Um, Again, I want the overall goal to be something that is higher level thinking in the sense of analysis, synthesis, or evaluation. For my unit, I would say by the end of the units, students will be able to evaluate Spain's actions in establishing and running their colonies according to the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. Now, I bring this up, right, because if it's an evaluation task, I need to give them an evaluative framework to use to base their judgments on. I can't just say, well, what do you think and how do you feel about it? Because that doesn't really tell me whether or not they can actually judge with any kind of expertise the quality of the events that happen, or the government, the society that's being established, in this case in New Spain, and justify, explain why their actions did, or why the nations did what they did based on their nation's point of view. Another thing about perspective taking. I have several standards that they're going to apply to about perspective taking, about economic influences, and about cause and effect relationships that have impacted world history. I have some notes here. This is posted on D2L about this overall goal and some things that I would want to do. Because I would have to teach this evaluative framework, that would have to be kind of a whole separate thing. I wouldn't do it if I wasn't going to use it over and over and over again. So, for example, I'm giving them the stool here. I want them to use it to evaluate what happened in Spain, or when Spain came and conquered, a lot of South America, and Central America, for that matter. And I would want them to be able to do that when we look at American colonies, when we look at French colonies, when they move on later in life and they look at things like the Revolutionary and Civil War and things like, basically, why are people doing what they're doing? I'm giving them a tool to use to make those judgments on. Now, that would have to be, again, something that I do before I do all this, so they have that at the ready. I would have to make sure that they can apply that so they don't fail because I didn't give them enough practice using it. So, in this case, right, I have my overall goal. Lesson 1, I would have an overall objective. Now, the way that I want you to do this is the overall goal is level 3. Each lesson that you have represents one major chunk or idea that students need to master. That should be at level 2, either comprehension or application. When you think of what you want them to be able to do, you have to break that down into, well, what are the facts that go into that? What are the other concepts, the sub-concepts that go into that? So, in order to do this overall goal, explain how Columbus's voyages led to changes in Europe and in the Americas, right? They need to know who the major players are. They need to be able to find key terms. They need to be able to recall important dates and find important places. But they also need to be able to integrate that stuff, right? Most of this is all level 1, not all of it in this case. But the integration of a bunch of level 1 stuff requires level 2 thinking. So again, the overall goal is going to be level 3. Each major lesson goal represents a concept that they're going to have to integrate for the overall goal. Each lesson, being at level 2, is comprised of a bunch of facts and ideas and concepts or basic skills and strategies depending on what you're teaching. I want you to get detailed and break it down. And I want you to break it down to the smallest unit of measure. I want you to break it down to the bare facts. What do you need to know? And then when you get up here, it's how do you need to tie these things together? And when we look across lessons, like lesson 2, I have the same thing, comprehension / application level goal here. In this case, I have more new figures, more new terms, events, and new places, right? But here, I need to kind of outline, how do I want things to be integrated? What will they need to be able to do? In this case, why the Spanish won? What actually happened? How did it play out? Lesson 3 is about really why did they establish the society that they did? What role did religious beliefs play? Again, key people, key terms, concepts, some details about how society was structured, and so on. And for the overall goal, they need to be able to tie lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3 all together to give me a holistic view of what happened. And then once they have that kind of deeper structure of events, they need to use the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. And where I have that, I thought I had it on here, but I don't. But it's available at this particular link. So that's what I want you to do for your material. Get as far as you can, bring it to class. We'll talk in more detail about it. I'll give you another example to practice with. If you have any questions, let me know.